What's chillin' YouTube? This is Frosty Gaming, a brand new casual community-based gaming channel that touches on every aspect of the gaming world, from gaming news, reports, to patch note analyses, to update reviews and gameplay commentaries. It can all be found here. So if you ever have any suggestions, any criticisms, or comments that you would like to leave me in terms of what we should do moving forward, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. It is very much so appreciated. So let's get straight into the content here. We are going to be doing a patch note review of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Season 2. Now, the story with this game is there has been a lot of backlash against this game and its developers, Infinity Ward, for the lack of content and really the abandoning basically of Modern Warfare multiplayer. They're at this compared to other games in the Call of Duty life cycle at this point, aka February after launch. This game has significantly less content and attention compared to specifically 2019, which was its storyline predecessor. So at this point in 2019, we had gunfight maps. We had more multiplayer maps than we do now, even with the arrival of this update. We had more guns, more packs, more bundles in the store. Literally everything in this game is less than the other Call of Duties. So that's kind of the situation that they're in now. Again, this patch note review is kind of for the people that like to take that extra dive into the updates and the content, and really the ins and outs of what changes in the game. So again, if you would like to kind of look at the things that I've deemed important to know in terms of these tiny details that most people may not know about, stick around and we'll go through them. So starting off, just to make some few comments, progression. So we finally have a new prestige cap. It is right now with this new update. It is level 450 at prestige 9. The note that they left says that the maximum level can be achieved in season 2. So that hints that we will definitely be able to probably go up higher every season. So in season 3, we're probably going to be looking at level 650. Again, this should have been in the game to begin with. I don't know why we had to wait an entire update cycle to get prestige levels in a different prestige system. But again, Infinity War was lacking in a lot of areas this time around. But again, we finally got it, even though it should have been here since the beginning. Next up, just some comments on the new weapons. The ISO Hemlock is a new AR. Again, all of these can be free from the Battle Pass, so make sure that you're spending your tokens that you get from the Battle Pass on this new stuff. But yeah, it's a pretty good all-around assault rifle like most of the ARs in this game. Most of them are usable. This is no different. It reminds me a lot of the Grau from 2019. Very good weapon overall. I definitely recommend picking it up and trying to see what you can do with it in Gunsmith. Now, the KV Broadside. This gun is the first auto shotgun iteration in Modern Warfare 2. It has a magazine. I see a lot of people using Dragon's Breath on this guy. If you have been plopped into shipment at any point in this update, you definitely have come across this gun. But it seems like the range is really good for being an auto shotgun, so I'm definitely looking forward to trying this thing out. If you're a shotgun guy, or in general, if you're just trying to use something cool, I think this would be a pretty good option for you. Now, the dual Kodachis, is just a double sword melee weapon. We saw it in 2019. But the main thing I want to say about this is what people actually don't know is depending on what your melee weapon is, it changes the way your character works. Not every melee weapon is simply a reskin of the knife, right? So the Kodachis, they move forward more, it has more range, and you move faster while swiping compared to the knife. However, when you're using the dual Kodachis, you move slower, your sprint speed is slower, and you cannot strafe as fast. So when it comes to kind of being in a room full of a lot of people, if you're going to have to swipe really fast at people, this is the melee weapon for you. However, if you still want to run around, strafe through bullets, run around corners, run back around, and be a movement-based melee person, the knife is still the better option for you because this will slow you down. Next up, crossbow. So the crossbow, again, I've always thought it was mid. I don't, in this game specifically, I don't really see why you would use a crossbow compared to the other marksman rifles, especially when we have guns like the SAB and the SPR. But if it's for you, if you really like the challenge and, handicapping yourself in terms of what gun you use, by all means, go ahead and use this. But just a few comments on it. Again, you can pick up the ammo. It is undetected by trophy systems. I don't really understand, unless this is like a one-hit kill at any part of the body with armor, I don't know why you would use this gun compared to the other guns. But hey, there's some people that love it. So by all means, congratulations, you got your mid gun back. But anyways, the only way to unlock this so far is to complete the event challenges, which will come out and be completed as the season progresses on. Weapon tuning. Now, the main things about this is probably one of the most significant parts of this update, in my opinion. Weapon tuning is actually worth doing and spending time on. So before, there was really too much of a negative impact of weapon tuning. For example, for those of you who don't really know what a weapon tuning does, when you max out your weapon, you can go above the selected attachment in Gunsmith, and when you click on tuning, it'll take you to a menu with drag bars. Each side of the bar had a certain stat on it, and generally speaking, a lot of people want to max out a certain stat. So for example, if I wanted to max out a really fast running gun class with hip fire and sprint to fire speed, I would want a lot of my attachments to be tuned towards those two stats. But before this update, it seemed like there was really no benefit of tuning. There really wasn't that much of a significant difference that tuning would make the gun, and a lot of times if you tuned something really far, the negative impact on another stat was way too high. So they really just did an overall buff of weapon tuning, so I definitely recommend going in and actually messing around with the tuning in the game. Definitely go in and max out certain attributes that you want. It's a lot easier to find a sweet spot where when you move the bar, the green part moves a lot and the red part actually barely moves at all. So you definitely need to go in and find where those areas are. It's definitely worth paying attention to, and I don't think a lot of people really do this enough. So moving on, we're going to go through some weapon balancing really quick. Again, this isn't the point of this video, but again, if you really want to know this very specific changes that they've made, we are going to continue on. So the M13B, buff at mid-range and a buff on the upper torso damage area. I really think this gun was kind of weak. It definitely didn't hit as hard as it should be. Is really easy to use. The recoil is really not there, but again, it just was weak compared to the other things. I don't usually use the M4 as a metric. I don't understand why you would use, the M13 over the M4. Moving on, the Cast-Off 7.62, which is the game's iteration of the regular standard AK-47. It got a small damage reduction and it does less damage at range. In my opinion, this is a perfect change. The gun absolutely slapped in any range. The damage was super high. Depending on what you put on it, the attachments would make this gun no recoil. It needed some sort of nerf, so I'm okay with this. The Lockman and the M4 increased their semi-auto fire rate. Not many people use the Lockman 5.56. It's a pretty solid gun, but again, it's one of those where why would you use it when you can use something else that excels? The Lockman 5.56 doesn't really excel at anything specific, but again, those are two things just to keep in mind. Battle rifles. If you are a battle rifle user, you definitely need to pay attention to this because it does kind of change the way that you use these guys. So battle rifle overhaul, basically with these changes, changed the damage output in semi-auto fire and full auto fire. For the Lockman 7.62 and the FTAC Recon, the full auto recoil has been reduced, but you do less damage in full auto. It is better to use these two guns in semi-auto than their full auto versions. A few different changes as far as these two guns go. Increased damage at long range on the Lockman, increased close range damage. On the F-TAC, again, it's basically just making them quality of life changes easier to use. But again, overall, it is still better to use these guns in semi-auto. The Lockman 7.62 was really a little bit too hard to use in full auto anyway, but again, it just made the gun a little bit more viable compared to what it was before. The SO14 got a semi-auto rate of fire buff. The damage at range got buffed, which was okay because I remember trying to get this thing gold. I don't know why you would pick this over the other battle rifles. At long range, it definitely wouldn't close out kills. But they also buffed the semi-auto on it as well. This gun, in my opinion, is garbage. I didn't really like using it. I don't really see a reason to not use the F-TAC and the Lockman over this gun. Now the TAC-V got some changes as well. In my opinion, this was probably one of the best battle rifles. It was the most manageable in full auto, but again, it's still better to use it in semi-auto. They decreased head damage in full auto, and they increased a lot of the damage factors using semi-auto, and they reduced the some of the damage done in semi-auto to places other than the torso. Not really that big of a change for the TAC-V. It was already a pretty solid gun, but this shouldn't be a significant change to your gameplay regarding the TAC-V. Handguns, X13 Auto, the reduced damage while using akimbo. This is a great change. I hate akimbo pistol users, mainly because for some reason they are always accompanied by a riot shield on their back. So being able to reduce the damage in akimbo, great change already right off the bat. The additional changes to this are increased lower body damage, increased close range damage, and increased damage at range, which is good because I feel like using this gun, it took way too many to kill people. It almost took like it felt like a whole magazine to get a kill. This is a really good change in my opinion. Strela P. For all 12 of you Strela P users in the world, you guys got kind of a small buff. There is now no required range that the projectile has to go to activate. So now you can basically shoot it at your feet and you'll get the full benefit of it. There used to be a certain distance it had to travel to actually get something done, but it is no longer a thing. Doesn't really matter in my opinion. One of the worst items in the entire game. RPG 7. So really cool change to this. This actually buffed the RPG for people that are good at aiming it, and I don't really mind this at all. So the small reduction to splash damage range, meaning the distance from the explosion has gotten smaller, right? So the explosion range for where you'll get a hit marker has gotten smaller, but within that smaller area now, it does increase damage. So it basically rewards you for being able to aim better and aim closer to the person's body, which is a really good change. I always like changes that, encourages the use of skill. So that's a pretty good change as much as I hate the RPG. Moving on, LMGs. The RPK is getting overall nerf, which is good. The RPK was absolutely dominating the meta of this game. If you didn't use it before, just know this thing was an absolute laser. There was really no downsides to using this gun. It was an LMG, so it's a little bit shorter, so it's not like you were able to run around the map like a Vector, but the damage at range was way too high. It didn't have recoil, so you could hit people from really far away. There was really no downside to using this gun at all. But it got some movement and speed nerfs, and it no longer does as much damage at range. And honestly, this is the absolute perfect thing that this gun needed to be more balanced. The Raw MG, if you've never used this gun, I highly recommend you try using it. It's really good. The damage is super high. At close range, it's like a one-shot headshot kill. They increase the recoil, but again, depending on the attachments you make and how you play the game, this isn't really going to be that much of a change for you. Marksman rifles. 3 of them kind of got a little bit of a change. The EBR-14, which is, again, in my opinion, one of the worst guns in the game. Not only are all the other marksman rifles better than the EBR-14, you also have battle rifles, which kind of are more versatile and do the EBR-14's job better. So EBR is kind of like stuck down there at the very, very bottom. For those people that do use it, they reduce the range damage at range, but they also increase the upper torso damage area. Again, don't know what the purpose of that change was. It needs a little bit more than that to be viable, in my opinion. LMS just got the same change that the other changes, the other weapons got, with this added minimum damage against armor. Again, that's for the DMZ and Warzone folks, but I really, really don't like Warzone, so this is not the channel for you if that's what you're looking for. But LMS, super underrated gun. I tried it out and I was really surprised why more people didn't use it, so I definitely suggest you go and give it a try. The TAC-M. Now these buffs actually seemed very noticeable when I played this update. So the TAC-M, it 2 hits at almost any range. It 1-shot headshots at a pretty decent range as well. They buffed the increased rate of fire, which felt super good when I used it this time around, and they increased the damage in your upper torso. So again, you're going to be getting those 2 hit kills almost every single time now. The recoil is really good. I highly suggest, if you're really good with semi-auto weapons or you like the semi-auto weapons, definitely try out the TAC-M. This thing is absolutely amazing now. Other than that, let's talk about more gun balance. Vaznev 9K. This thing got a nerf, thank God. So the Vaznev 9K, this thing has been an absolute beast this entire time. There is really almost no downsides to using this thing. It would absolutely beam people from across the map. Recoil was super negligible and almost non-existent. But the main changes they made to this gun are the reduced damage at range. Every damage nerf to this gun in this update has to do with range. Which is exactly what it needed. It's still super good up close, and I feel like that's what it should have been from the beginning, being a submachine gun, but it is no longer a beam at long range anymore, which is a great change. The Fennec 45. Okay, so this is probably one of my favorite guns in the game. It had one of the highest TTKs before the update, but now they basically only decrease the damage per bullet, which I think is a perfect change. Once again, these balance changes are actually pretty decent this time around. But I don't think it needed a fire rate change. I don't think it needed a movement change. I really just think it just tuned the damage a little bit and the gun would be much more balanced, and that's exactly what they did. So I'm really glad that they put this in the game. Sniper rifles, the only one that got a change is the semi-auto Signal 50. Now, I'm glad that this got every single nerf. Every change is a nerf. I've gotten quick scoped by this thing way too many times. Being a big semi-auto high caliber sniper rifle that hits kills in one hit, it doesn't need to be as good as it was. So the movement was basically gutted. They reduced some of the long range damage, and the bullet does not move as fast, which is good because the gun was too good for what it was. Other than that, the only thing I really want to talk about now is just a little bit of commentary on the maps. Again, we got new party modes. Everybody should know that. You got gun game, infected is back. If you didn't know, game modes, party game modes don't affect your KD. So don't think you can go into infected and go 40-1 and raise your KD. But yeah, this is being masked as new content, quote unquote new, but you know, this is back. So make sure you hop in there and try it out. And remember, you can play this in a party, so you can hop in and infect it in gun game with the party. It just depends on how many people you have. Maps, Dome. Okay, Dome was really fun when I played it in Modern Warfare 3 back in the day, but I just feel like in this era of Call of Duty, in this game, it just does not work. I don't know. It's ever since they came back, it's just head glitching. Just the worst experience I've had in Call of Duty in a long time. Every time this pops up in rotation, I really don't like it. I don't think it works in this kind of Call of Duty setting that we have in this day and age. Valderas Museum, on the other hand, very unpopular opinion, but I think this map's a really good map. I like the setup, I like the environment, the colors are cool. It is a little bit too big, I will say. It would be perfect for a 10v10 map, but a lot of the game modes, specifically like Search and Hardpoint, they're really fun on this map. So I'm really glad that they did this. It's not too big like that Palace map from 2019 where they actually had to change it. I don't really think they have to change this map at all, but it was a really good addition. But again, unfortunately, not really new because it was here when the game dropped. Other than that, we got Terminal back. Unfortunately, I really wish this was a multiplayer map, but like I said in the beginning, multiplayer is kind of getting shafted. So Terminal's back, but is only a battle map, so you can only play Terminal in Ground War and Invasion, unfortunately. Um, the rest of this patch is basically ranked play and ranked rewards. Talking about ranked, that's a little bit too sweaty for me. I might mess around with it every now and then, but again, that's not the point of this channel. We tend to stay away from the sweats and the sweaties. So, if you enjoy this kind of content and you have suggestions on what you would like to see next, please drop a comment and let me know, and we can definitely make it happen for you. So, thank you for sticking around and watching the video. I will see you next time. Be chilling.